Record. All right, I heard the video was glitchy, so we're going to stop the video, see if that helps make things good. And here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Welcome. Welcome to the last night of training. Yes, we're almost done. Woohoo. We can skip that. Okay, tonight we're going to do final clinic prep, talk about the volunteer readiness check. Going to do some updates as well. It is going to be a short night. We are not going to be doing lots of tax stuff. I will throw it out if there's anything that people want me to review. But in general, it's going to be kind of just general overview things. It's not going to be really any new tax knowledge, one little tiny bit of new tax knowledge tonight. Tax clinics start next week. Our first volunteer readiness check pilot is on Monday. We're starting office hours towards the end of the week, and we're ready to get this thing rolling here. Yep, that's kind of what it is. Talk about all that stuff. All right, here we go. So just one quick little bit of tax knowledge. So some states, I don't know why, but some states don't let you e-file the state return if your federal return is a 1040 NR. Either they just never made the connections or made the software processing to happen or whatever reason. Alabama is one of those states. I don't think we have any other ones, but if we do, I will definitely let anybody know. Obviously, we are here in Minnesota, but if we're helping anybody remotely and they're from Alabama and they say, my return won't e-file, why does it keep looping? This would be why they get that message. And we can say, I'm sorry, it doesn't work. There's paper filing instructions. Alabama actually has their own file directly with the state for your income taxes things. So that might work for them as well. Don't know, but paper will always work. Okay. So a reminder for when you submit a return to me, right? Take a look at that PDF before you submit it, right? Does it have all of the required forms? There's generally going to be a 1040 NR, right? A Schedule OI, probably an 8843. I can't guarantee it, but 99% of the time it will, right? Are the forms all filled out, right? Line number 1B on the 8843 is even now, I still catch people who miss that on the entry. The tax layer entry is very easy to miss if you're not paying attention. Lots of people manage to jump over it. Our clients jump over it all the time. That's why we need to practice catching ourselves there. There's some other places, 2 places that I want to make sure everybody is recognizing that the information is different. So when you're entering it into the software, make sure you're getting the right version of the information. On the 8843 line 1A is your visa plus your most recent entry. It can't be 2026. The software won't let you do a 2026, but it's going to be 2025 or 24 or 23 or 22, whenever it was that they came to the United States most recently. Schedule OI, Table G, that is only dates in 2025. So if they've been here the whole time, January 1st, that was the first day they were here, nothing else. If they've been in and out, then we're going to put a bunch of in and out dates on the table. The next thing is the visa change. So on the 8843 line 1B, that one you only put a visa change if they changed without leaving the United States. So if you think back to, I think it was Elena, right? She came here as a student, as a B visa, touring the schools. In March, she left, and she came back in August on her F1, right? So she changed her visa for sure, but she didn't change without leaving, right? She left and then she came back. So 8843 is only if you change without leaving. Schedule OI line F, if you ever changed. So there, Elena would say, yep, I was B2 to F1, whatever date she came in, 8/16/25 or whatever it is. Double check income, deductions, treaty benefits are showing up. Remember, tax layer is not the most friendly for non-resident returns. So you need to double check before you send me those returns, please. All right, let's talk about member signup. So we've been open for about 2 weeks. I would say that we are very typical for where we should be right now. So we're right around 1,100, something like that, people have signed up for membership. So that's pretty darn good. And we're going to really start to see the growth in people signing up. Kind of the end of January, beginning of February, nobody's really thinking about it. But as we continue on, people will start to get more cognizant of, hey, I'm going to have to file my returns here. If we look at our tax clinic sign up, I know it's very, very small. Basically look for dark blue versus light blue. And you can see that the dark blue is starting to fill up at the beginning of the season. So this is great. This means that all of those appointments that we have out there for office hours, people are signing up to get some help. And the first tax clinics, which are in March. So they're kind of those first bigger chunks right there. So we're on par for where we were last year with this. So I think this is all kind of good and positive. So that's kind of where we are from an external side. So let's talk about the volunteer side and getting everybody through and ready. So I'm going to start with kind of reviewing, why do we do this volunteer readiness check? Why after all of this stuff do we still do another thing, right? So our clinics are structured so that volunteers are going to prepare their own returns. There's a couple of tiny little exceptions for that, but generally, for the vast majority, that's what everybody's going to be seeing. So you as a volunteer, right, you're going to be the only reviewer those students have to make sure that their return is right before submitting it, right? If we go back to the cooking analogy, right, you're the chef. You need to be able to walk up, taste their dish and say, hey, that needs some more salt, or whoa, you really need to add some lemon or something like that. You know how to fix it when you see it, right? You are going to have support at the clinics. You will have a site coordinator there, but that site coordinator is not going to be glued to your hip following you around, right? They've got other volunteers that they're helping as well. We don't expect you to know everything, right? It's very important that you should know, and we can always tell our clients, right? Right is much more important than fast. So if you aren't sure, please do ask, all right? But we want to try to give you as much knowledge and capability as we can so that you can handle 50 to 75% of the situations you're going to see first time in the tax clinic. And as you go along, you're going to hit those situations where you don't know. And by the end of the tax season, you're going to be at like 95%, right? There will still be stuff. And I'm at like 99, right? I still see stuff where I'm new. I got to go figure it out or go talk to my IRS guys and have them help me. So if you don't know, get your site coordinator. If the site coordinator doesn't know, they will get myself or somebody else involved. But we want to get you so that you can help the vast majority of people. All right. So the volunteer readiness check must be completed before you can volunteer at a tax clinic. I will say that the goal is to have it done by February 18th, simply because our office hours are starting on February 20th. Our first in-person tax clinic event starts on March 3rd. The final deadline to complete all of the training is February 28th. All right, so February 28th, 11:59 p.m., Moodle goes dead. It's already programmed in. Get all of your stuff in and get it done before that. Right? All right, okay. If you have not really done anything yet so far this semester, if you don't make some good progress this week, I am going to go in and I'm going to cancel your volunteer appointments because I can't have client capacity, clients expecting appointments if you aren't going to be ready. I will have the record of all of the appointments that you made. It's very easy for me to go back in and add them in. We have somebody that's, Linda, I think you might not be muted if you want to mute yourself. Thank you. So I can add you in very, very quickly. That's not a problem. but I will take you out so that we can make sure that the appointments that we do have are going to be folks that make it through the volunteer readiness check. If you are partway through and you have an appointment before the end of February, I will be reaching out to you. Like I said, office hours start on the 20th or the 19th, go through the 27th. Volunteer readiness check pilot volunteers, I'm looking at you over there, Adam. You need to be done with your states, all right? You don't have to be all the way through with the volunteer readiness check because you're doing that part instead of the scenarios. There's a quiz, which we'll talk about, but you don't have to have that done first. You also will get some information from me with login information for the real version of TaxSlayer Pro, because we are going to prepare returns for reals. All right. I'm also going to give you all a reminder. So all of the scenarios, all of the return forms that you submit, I manually grade all of those. I circle all of the things in red so you know where the mistakes are. I talk to you about them. Hey, it looks like you did this. I think maybe you did this is where the mistake was. Go try to fix it there, right? So that means that you're not going to get instant feedback on those scenarios, right? I am in Moodle a lot. I'm checking it multiple times a day, doing my best to keep up. But if we have 50 volunteers all of a sudden submitting scenarios all at the same time, I will get backed up a little bit. Keep that in mind for that February 28th deadline, right? You can't expect to power through the volunteer readiness check in 2 states in about 4 hours. It's going to take a little bit longer than that. I don't think I know who that is. That's wanting to get in. I think we can let them go. All right. Okay. I will get back to you as quickly as I can, but know that it's not going to be generally, unless you get really lucky, it's not going to be 30 minutes. All right. Here's kind of where everybody is, right? So pass the tests. Well done. That's really good. First thing we did this spring, TaxSlayer returns. About some of you are done. Some of you are partially done with that. About half of you are partially done with everything. Minnesota, another chunk has made really good progress. The states, people are making some progress on them, right? But nobody's through all of their states yet. After the states, we have a couple of quality review quizzes and the volunteer readiness check quiz and the volunteer readiness scenario. All right. So this is all very, very doable in the amount of time that we have left, right? Realistically, we've got over 2 weeks. That is completely easily enough time. As you do more of these, right, it becomes a lot easier. You know where to go in TaxSlayer to find the Silly 8843. You know how to enter that schedule OI. So things are a lot faster once you do that as you progress. But there is definitely work to be done for everybody. Okay, so let's talk about what is in the volunteer readiness check. So the first thing is the quiz. So there are 20 questions on there. Some of the questions are new. Some of the questions are pulled from the state quizzes. They come independent of whatever states you were assigned. So you may have been assigned Utah, and I ask you a question about North Carolina. That's just kind of be the way it is because we're going to see random clients in the remote events. All of our training materials are out there, right? So you've got the tools to be able to answer those questions. The assignments, if you're a non-resident only volunteer, you have 2 scenarios that you have to pass for federal and state returns. For non-resident and resident, it's going to be 3. 2 non-resident and then 1 resident scenario as well. If you were here with me last year and you did them, you're going to get new scenarios, so you don't get to use the same ones that you did before. I will warn you. So these questions and scenarios represent some of the more complicated clients that we might see. So 90% of our clients are really easy. Think Lisa, think Nick, right? Straightforward W-2, maybe a 1042S, very straightforward. We do have a small subset of more complicated clients that come in that have more kind of going on. The scenarios that I'm going to give you combine kind of income and situations to minimize the number of scenarios that you have to prepare, right? I could do 5 pretty easy scenarios, and then you only would have like one special thing for each one, or I can do 2 or 3 scenarios, and each one is going to have like 2 or 3, however many little special things of, oh, you need to do a refund, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. All right. Once you can correctly prepare these returns, you should feel confident that you're going to be able to help the vast majority of our clients with their tax returns and their tax slayer issues. Like these scenarios are that 75, 80%. If you can handle this, you're going to be able to handle at least that percentage of the clients that come in. What does it take to pass? For both the assignments and the quiz, it is a 90% pass rate. So it is a slightly higher standard than what we've used in the past and with the IRS. All right. For the assignments, when you submit them, an incorrect number is a not pass. Missing income, missing deductions, wrong state residency status, anything that affects the numbers on the return. If you make an error in like an information area, so like 8843 line 1B is missing, that's going to be a -4%. So you can make 2 of those kind of errors, right? Small errors that they don't affect the calculations. They're just a data entry thing. All right. What happens if you don't pass the first time? That is okay. I am more generous than the IRS. You get more times than they do. So the quiz, it's an automatic retake. There is a large question bank that enables 3 attempts without repeating questions. If you can't pass after 3 times, please reach out to me. For the assignments, so if you get something wrong, I'm going to ask you to fix it. And then I'll give you a new scenario. There are something like 10 chances, so 10 different scenarios. So if you don't get the first one, you'll get a third one. And if you don't get the second one, you'll get a fourth one. And we can go on down until you do 10 scenarios. And if you do 10 returns and you're still really struggling to get it right, we will have a conversation about either some additional support during a first tax clinic or whether this is the right role for you. So I will say that generally, most people, well, basically nobody takes all the way to 10. Usually people may not pass on the first 2. Usually it's in the 3 to 4 range. Sometimes 5 to 6, but that's usually, I would say that's like 95% of the volunteers. All right. They are not intended to be tricks. They are not intended to like try to catch you out, other than to say, hey, you need to pay attention. These are the kinds of things that we're going to see in the tax clinics, because they all are based on reality of what we've seen, what I've seen in the tax clinics. Okay. Just like with the IRS test, right? This is open book, open resource. Please don't be open friend. Please don't submit the same exact mistakes or the same return, 30 seconds after each other. But use your resources, right? You've got a personalized guide tool. I will be a little bit grouchy if you don't use that. You can also reach out to me if you're having a problem. Maria, I can't get this state tax refund to show up. I will probably say, oh, well, did you create a personalized guide? I'm a little bit of a broken record on that. What page are you at the guide? What did it say? What are you seeing on your screen? Send me that info, and then we can help get you kind of unstuck from wherever you are. So I also create personalized guides for all of these scenarios, so I can follow along and say, oh, why don't you go look at page 32, right? I think that might walk you through what you need to do here. All right. Once you pass, which I am very confident that you will, if you guys have made it this far, I am 100% confident that you can make it. I have no doubt in my mind that you're able to do this. It is not rocket science. It just takes a level of attention to detail and some practice. So after you pass, if I canceled any of your volunteer clinics, I will reschedule you for all of those, and we will go from there. All right. Any questions on that before we move on? Any questions in the room? Any questions online? All right. If anybody is feeling anxious or nervous about it, send me an email. We can talk. Right? I'm here to help you as much as I can, other than I'm not going to do it for you. All right. So let's talk a little bit about scope and a reminder of what we are training you on and what we are not training you on. So at our tax clinic, we have some scope limitations. Our scope limit is an income limit, $89,000. That is a software limit. That is something that we cannot change. So I just answered a couple of emails from people today. Hey, I entered all my stuff, but the tax layer won't give me my returns. What's going on? Well, do you think maybe that you might be over that limit? Because I suspect that you are. We also don't support all states. Now, the software will support all of the states. 100%, if there's a state income tax return, that software will handle that. But we did not train you on all of the states. And so we are not going to ask you to provide support if we don't give you the information about how to do that correctly, right? States have different rules on whether they take treaties or not. States have very different rules about how you determine residency. If we haven't figured that out enough to be able to help you, we're not going to ask you to help somebody else do that wrong. We're going to point them back to, hey, go find the New Mexico State Department of Revenue's website, see what it says. It's all on there somewhere. It just maybe is a little bit of research. We don't support treaty benefits for income types other than wages, scholarships, and capital gains. There are other treaty benefits out there, particularly for dividends, but we don't, as an IRS FIDA clinic, the IRS has said those are the things that we can help on. If somebody has self-employment income, a 1099 NEC or a 1099 miscellaneous, if they are a resident and you're advanced certified, you can help them with that. If they are a non-resident, then we cannot help with that as well. IRS rules. We don't help with income earned outside of the United States. Cryptocurrency and digital assets are also out of scope. We'll say again, right? The software may do it. They can use the software. We can point them to some IRS resources. Hey, here's what the IRS says about cryptocurrency. Use that plus the software, you can prepare the return. All right. We are supporting amended and prior year returns this year. We have the software, that's the same software that we're using for the VRC pilot. If you are doing any of the virtual tax return preparation options, so that virtual live event or the virtual asynchronous, you're going to be using that traditional software, which has different functionality, and you might see a few amended and prior year returns. If you see that, you will know about that before you get them, and we will talk with you and potentially sit with you the first time or two to make sure that you're comfortable doing it. All right. There are some areas that are in scope that we are not providing training on just because there's a limit to how much training we can all do. The first one to know is investment income. Capital gains for those that are in non-resident and resident certification, dividends for any volunteers, right? Investment income goes on Schedule NEC. The personalized guide walks them all through that. So if somebody comes up to you and they say, hey, I'm not sure what to do with my Robinhood stuff, say, okay, let's look at that personalized guide, see what you got, go from there. Retirement account withdrawals. It's usually when a student has an internship somewhere, their company signs them up for the system, the program automatically, they leave and then they get cashed out of it. So personalized guide also takes care of that. It's not very common. Think of it as maybe 1 to 3 people a year. But if you're the lucky one that gets that person, then know that the personalized guide is there to provide some instructions about how to do it. There are some Minnesota credits that we don't cover as well. The K-12 education credit, child independent care credit. I would say extremely rare. I won't say never because it is theoretically possible, but they basically would have to be from Canada, Mexico, a student from India or South Korea, have a child that's a US citizen. They have to be single and either have child care expenses so they can work or pay education expenses for their child in elementary or high school. So theoretically possible. If you see somebody like that, that is 100% send them to the site coordinator. All right. We also are not providing training right now, but we do help with FICA refunds. Those are Social Security and Medicare tax refunds, right? Non-residents on an F1 or J1 visa are not required to pay those taxes. Usually universities are really good about it because when you're paying those as an employee, your employer is also paying that same amount. So they're all about it if they don't have to pay that extra money. So if you see somebody that has that on their paycheck and they're a non-resident F1 or J1, usually that's going to be from an internship or a company that's not really familiar with it. Tell them, hey, it looks like you might be eligible for a FICA refund. Have them send us an email to their tax help email, whatever that is based on their membership. And then we will send them some high-level instructions, and then we can help start working on those returns for them either during the regular season if we have time or after the filing season is done. The FICA refund is entirely separate from the tax return. So there's no deadline for due dates like the April 15th deadline. So those can wait. All right. We aren't also covering filing instructions. They're pretty self-explanatory. It's mostly pretty easy to just click through it if you're doing it electronically. If it's on paper, we've got better filing instructions that say, print out a copy of your state and your federal and sign and then mail it to this address. We also aren't providing a lot of training on trying to fix e-file problems. They are all in a very database language, basically is the way I would say that. So I have an example here, which is mostly incomprehensible, but if you've done it enough, you realize that they are saying that this return does not have a Schedule OI on it. So we're not going to try to teach you how to do all of these things. If you see a bunch of them, you may kind of start to figure it out. Generally, tax emails are the best way for help like this. Usually we go back and forth a couple of times, but if they send us screenshots of this and we'll say, okay, show me what's on lines like 12, 14, 16, and 25, we can figure out what they did wrong and get them through the e-file process. All right, any questions on that? All right, remember scope. Scope is your friend. Keeps us all safe and happy. All right, anything in the, nope, nothing in the chat. Okay, all right, let's talk about the clinic processes here. So how it all works for our clients, how they get help. All right, so a high level process, remember, so the clients all register, they all sign up for a free membership. That's that 1,100-ish that I was talking about earlier. When they sign up, they get access to the tax software, the guides, the tools, the demo videos, all of that kind of stuff. And they are instructed and encouraged, try to do it yourself, right? And then we say, if you need help, you can get help. When we offer email support and appointments for people if they need them, right? But the clients are doing it on their own, right? They're going to reach out to us if they need help. If they don't need any help, they can just go ahead and file. I will say that roughly 70% of our people last year filed without needing an appointment. So a lot of the people that we help don't need an appointment. The people that tend to come in are either the ones that are very, very new, don't really know what to do, very, very worried about it, or a little bit more complicated. That's kind of the three groups that we tend to see. All right. So at a clinic, right, our goal is to provide an opportunity for our clients to ask questions of a trained volunteer about their return, right? Help resolve issues entering a specific document or information, review a return to make sure it's complete, right? We are going to not walk the client through a step-by-step, like standing over their shoulder. Yep, click there, click there, click there. We're not going to provide support on out-of-scope situations as well. So when clients make the appointment, they only get one tax clinic appointment per filing season. It's a 90-minute appointment. That is definitely enough time, especially if they've done even a little bit of preparatory work to get through everything. We send them 4 reminders about their appointment. We said 5. We send them the initial confirmation that says what to do. And then we send the 1 week of reminder, which is get organized, get all of your stuff, 30 hours out, get started. Are you ready? They can cancel up to 4 hours in advance. Then a text message, finally, don't forget, we'll be here. We send the Zoom links a few hours before the remote clinic because people can cancel up to 4 hours before the event. So if we send it out too soon, then we're going to send it to people that aren't going to be there. We also will take walk-ins at most in-person clinics. Each school may have different policies about what we do based on their capacity, but here at the U of M, we do take walk-ins, and we can help a lot of people with walk-ins towards the end. All right. When you're at a tax clinic, please wear your t-shirt. I'm wearing my gray t-shirt today. Volunteer t-shirts will be distributed to local site coordinators for in-person volunteers. So if you're a local site coordinator, I will be talking with you about how to get those materials to you. For the U of M, pickup will be next week here in this same room, 5 o'clock to 5:30 if you want to stop by. Otherwise, you can pick it up at the tax clinic. We'll bring those there for you. If you're a remote-only volunteer, I will be in touch as you wrap up with your volunteer readiness check. Because yes, we will mail you shirts and supplies. So anyway, but make sure you wear your t-shirt because it's very easy. It's hard to see like who's a volunteer and who's not a volunteer. And we also go through with the clients, hey, a yellow shirt means that a resident or a non-resident trained person is who they are. If you're a resident, you have to talk to somebody in like a blue shirt or a red shirt so that they know as well as you who they are supposed to be talking to. All right. So for a remote clinic, it is a Zoom meeting, 2.5 hours long. There is one site coordinator running them. There are up to 4 volunteers. We have 2 waves of clients that come in. Roughly 2.5 clients per volunteer per wave. All of the volunteers are in their own breakout rooms. The site coordinator parcels out the clients to the volunteers. The way that I think about this is a carnival ride at the state fair. People come in, they get in line, they go into the breakout room with the volunteers. That's your ride for 15 minutes. You talk, ask whatever questions. 15 minutes is done, off they go. If they're done and they're good, they can leave or they can go get back in line again. The next people go into the breakout room with volunteers, and we kind of keep going around and around and around for the 2.5 hours until everybody's done. I will say that generally by about 2 hours, we're pretty much down to maybe 1 or 2 people left. So we usually get through everybody and we're pretty good by then. There's a few folks, usually the ones that haven't done anything before, that they're kind of there to the bitter end trying to get through things. If we happen to have multiple site coordinators and more than 4 volunteers, we will break it out into 2 separate sets of Zoom meetings, each with its own list of volunteers and clients. I don't know that we have any of those this year, but if we do, that's how that'll work. All right. So the site coordinator is running the meeting, right? They're going to sign in early. They're going to set up the breakout rooms for each of the volunteers, make sure the chat is set to the host, let the volunteers in, and then start parceling people out, right? They're going to assign clients, pull them out, keep track of everybody, answer questions. They will also come in and answer questions for the volunteers as well. So if you have a question, your site coordinator can come in and do that. All right. As a volunteer, while you're in that breakout room, right? Get ready, pull up your own stuff on your computer because you're going to have like the 4011s, any of the Moodle reference materials that you want. Wait for that client to join you. You'll be talking with them. please turn on your screen. I know that nobody loves that, but it helps them be more reassured that yes, there really is a person there that they are talking to. They can share their screen with you. Make sure when you're doing this event, you still need to protect that client's information. So if you're working on a computer in a public space, please use headphones. Try to minimize the personal information that you say out loud. Make sure nobody's looking at your screen, all that kind of stuff. If you have issues, you can raise your hand in the breakout room or go back to the main Zoom and ask the site coordinator. They will be happy to come help you. Sometimes it can be a little challenging because they have 4 volunteers that they're trying to manage. So it might take them a few minutes, but they will come help answer the questions. They're gonna kind of dine and dash. Come in, hey, what's your question? Blah, 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 blah. They'll tell it to you. Then you can like explain it in more detail to the volunteer or to the client. All right. All right. One of the questions that we get from our volunteers a lot, right, is like, what do clients ask? What are they going to say? The most common question that we get is this right? So if somebody asks, is this right? We're going to do a review of their return, right? Number one, let's get a PDF of their return. It is almost impossible to do a review in the TaxSlayer software, right? If you think about how many places you click when you're creating a return, how many places that you could possibly click to put information in, it is very difficult. So get their PDF, talk with the client. What kind of visa are you at? Where are you from? When did you first come? Start with the 8843 and then work your way back. 8843, Schedule OI, Schedule A, 1040 NR. Ask about their income documents, treaty benefits worksheet if they have one, federal state return, right? Ask if they have any other income just to make sure that they've reported everything. If they have a Minnesota renter's credit or property tax refund, right? Look at their income, right? Are they in that range that looks like they should be in not a dependent? Or do they have like $5,000 of income and they're still claiming a refund? So ask them how they figured out if they were a dependent or not. If they have the non-resident worksheet, M1NR, review that residency worksheet to confirm that everything is flowed through properly. We know that that's difficult, right? One of the other things, a sneaky check for the M1NR is to look at their CRP forms to see what they say, their certificate of rent paid. Does that match up with what they're saying? All right. If you need fix something, right? If it's a quick fix and we're in a remote clinic, right? Just a couple of boxes, tell them, yep, go here, federal, miscellaneous forms, 8843. All right, click here. There you go. We got it fixed. All right, if it is a longer change, like they didn't even do the form 8843, right? Direct them back to their personalized guide and say, all right, we're going to have you work on that for a while. That's going to take you a little while. Go get back in line. We're going to help somebody else while you're working on it. And then when you're done, we can check things again, right? Because it's not very efficient of your time to have you watch them create a Form 8843, right? We're really trying to balance how much time we have with the individual client answering their questions and also knowing that we don't have enough volunteers to truly give like a one-on-one, an hour spent doing your return for you kind of situation. If you're not sure about something, again, right, ask the site coordinator. Say, yep, I'm going to go ask an experienced volunteer for a second opinion, right? Everybody's heard about getting a second opinion. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Raise your hand, go out of the main room to that thing. If you go out to the main room, make sure you send a chat to the site coordinator. Don't like start announcing to everybody else in the Zoom, hey, this client, had a divorce and isn't sure whether they should put married or single anymore. So send a chat saying you need a question answered. Don't feel bad that you do this the first time or 2 or 5 or however many it takes, right? You should be able to get most of this stuff, but sometimes you just might be the volunteer that gets complicated people. It happens. All right. Office hours are almost identical to a remote tax clinic, except it's just a one-time ride and you're done. And you go 20 minutes with the volunteer, off they go. That 20 minutes is very fast. So, hi, how are you doing? What questions do you have? Try to basically get to the heart of the questions as quickly as you can, because it does go surprisingly quickly. The clients should all be prepped to have tax slayer up, have all of their income documents up, have everything ready to go so that they're ready to pounce on you when you become available. For in-person clinics, right, very, very similar, just physical room, right? The site coordinators show up, they get everything ready, set up the presentation for volunteers. At the beginning, we'll have a little bit of time to update for any new info or changes. That'll come out on email to remote volunteers if there is anything. At the start of the clinic, we'll do this for the first few, but just review the processes, expectations. They provide support to the volunteers again, clean up when we're all done, walk out. Right? For in-person clinics, we can have a clinic greeter. That is a great help to us because that'll be somebody out of the front door. You'll check in with them. They will check you in on your appointment. They will check in all the clients and verify ID matches for the clients and appointments. They'll also manage the walk-in cards. If we don't have somebody that's signed up as a clinic greeter, we may pull a tax volunteer out to do that role because we really need somebody providing that support out there to make sure people with appointments come in and get checked in and that we don't have a mob out there. If somebody is only a clinic greeter, that means that they've only passed the standards of conduct test, and so they will not answer any tax questions. So, and they will have the gray t-shirts is how we will know who they are. All right. Again, for in-person, wear your t-shirt, right? That tells our clients that you're a volunteer and what type of tax you can help with. Please try to show up a few minutes before the start. For the remote ones in particular, especially the office hours, if you're late, there's nobody there to help the client, right? If you're supposed to be there at 1 o'clock and you show up at 1:15, that means that that client has less than 5 minutes of your time. And there's no way to like make it up unless there's an opening in the schedule. And there are not very often very many openings. So shine up, check in, get your badge. Everybody will wear a badge for the in-person clinics. See if there's any updates while you're working with the clients, right? It's going to be something like a lecture hall, right? They're going to be there. You're going to go up, you're going to talk with them. Do your best to try to maintain the client's information, making sure it's private. Speak relatively softly, obviously, so they can hear, but softly, don't yell across the room. Hey, how do you figure out when somebody's married or single? That kind of stuff. When you leave, please turn in your badge and turn in your 4011, right? Because you need to bring those next time, or you can just leave them here and then we will always have them for you. If you take them and you don't bring them back, we will give you the badge of shame, a little paper adhesive version of it for the next day. All right. Again, same sort of thing. If something needs to be fixed and it's quick, show them where to go, walk them through it. If it's a longer thing, say, okay, here you go. You need to do this. All right, let's go find it. All right, you're on page 32 of your personalized guide. Go. Work through this section. When you get through with that and you have more questions, raise your hand. I'll come back. Again, get the attention of the site coordinator. It's totally fine. Everybody's nervous and not sure about things the first time they do it. All right, a couple of kind of additional random information things. So volunteer security and identity. So when we identify you in the tax clinics, both for the remote events and the in-person events, we will identify you with your first name and your last initial. All right. We are not going to give out your full contact information, your full name. We will never give out any of that information. And we will strongly encourage and tell you, please do not give out your personal information as well. We have had a few volunteers get followed by very anxious and determined clients. And so we do not want any sort of things like that. We want to make sure that all of our interactions stay within the confines of the VITA clinics. All right. I will also remind you that tax support provided outside of those events is not covered under the Volunteer Protection Act. So if you want to help your family, if you want to help your friends, that is fantastic. I applaud you. Go for it. I will say, think of it this way. If you made a mistake that cost them $1,000, how mad would they be and what would they do? And would they forgive you? And if the answer to that is yes, then you can help them. Not that you would make that kind of a mistake, right? But just to think about, like, if something did go wrong, like, is this somebody that I really know? Would they understand? Or would they, like, not take it well and not respond very positively? All right, so keep your information confidential. You can be identified by your first name, last initial, but that is all. All right, the next one is about in-person clinics. And this one is maybe more for the University of Minnesota. But in light of the recent federal enforcement activities that have been happening within our target population, I'm kind of speaking a little bit obscurely here. We have had conversations with the organizations that we support and provide in-person tax clinics to talk about what we should potentially do in the event of a law enforcement presence at a VITA tax clinic. All right. I will say that generally, if we have advance notice and a reason to believe that there would be anything like that, we will cancel the clinic and reschedule with the volunteers and with the clients. If we have something that happens live, we have a plan to basically reach out to the university to make them aware of the situation. And we would ask all of our volunteers and our clients to shut their devices, put their information away, and depart in a safe and orderly fashion, right? We are going to comply with all requirements of the law, but we don't need to do anything more. As volunteers, we are not going to have any of our taxpayers' information. That's all theirs. It's all on their computers. It's all their papers. We're never going to have anything that we have to protect, any confidential information, right? And as soon as that computer is closed and locked, then that information is sealed away and it can't be accessed unless somebody logs in to their account. So I think that it is very unlikely that we will have anything like that happen, but in the abundance of caution, we have made plans just in case. Here at the University of Minnesota, I will also mention that all of our in-person events will be in buildings that do not have public access. So that is another step that we are taking as well. If anybody has any questions or concerns about any of that, I encourage you to reach out to me and we can set up a Zoom to talk about it a little bit more. So, all right, with that depressing end, I apologize for that one. Are there any questions about the clinic processes, roles, etc.? Anything in the chat? All right. Okay. All right. Couple more fun things. All right. On temptation. So I don't know that this is as much of an issue now, but it can be very, very tempting for our clients to enter some incorrect information, right? And get a larger refund back, right? They'll never know, or by the time they catch it, I'll be back in my home country, right? We cannot knowingly prepare incorrect returns. But how do we handle it when a client is doing something that is wrong or that we think is wrong, right? So number one, right, we can't make them do anything, right? This is their own return. They're the ones typing that information in. They're the ones that are signing under penalties of perjury that it is correct. So all we can really do is say, look, that's not consistent with good tax law. That's not consistent with the information that you've provided me. You know, the IRS and the Minnesota Department of Revenue do often catch on. It just takes them a little while. So if they want to do what they're going to do, that's fine, but we can't help them with that anymore. And then get your site coordinator. And the site coordinator will come have a little talk with them. And then if they still want to do that, we'll ask them to leave. That's totally fine. All right. Minnesota, this one's from last year, but they do, right? They do basically publish all of this stuff. Hey, yes, we went after this person that didn't file returns for 3 or 4 or 5 years, or filed incorrectly and didn't report all of their income. So it definitely does happen that people do get caught cheating on their taxes. All right. A few words about your first clinic. So if you're going to be in person, right, it's going to be exciting. It'll be loud. It'll be chaotic, right? There'll be, depending on how many people we have, it's maybe only going to be 10 or 20, probably not 30 people out there all needing help. If it's remote, it's also exciting, but it's kind of intimidating and lonely. You're just kind of like sitting there in your breakout room going, okay, what's going to happen here? All right. Make sure you ask for help if you're not sure about anything, right? We know that that is the case, that the first few are going to be a little bit nerve-wracking. That is totally fine. We are here to support you, to help you succeed. I used to say that the first few clinics were a little bit more laid back, but because of the way we're structuring things, those volunteer readiness check pilot clinics will probably be pretty laid back, but we're not going to kick a lot of stuff off until March, so it will probably be relatively busy at that point. There won't be any 1042Ss for the first week or two of tax clinics in March, so that means that we'll see lots of students from India and lots of non-treaty countries. We can get a few trickier situations. Usually that will be people that worked in a couple of states. They went off and had some fabulous internships somewhere. After spring break is where it tends to get very busy. Kind of gets busier and busier because that's when the 1042S forms arrive. You start to see the students from China, South Korea, all of those other places that get the 1042Ss. Generally, things are really, really busy the last week of March and the first week of April. Usually, well, in the first part of the second week of April. That last little tiny bit of April, right before the filing deadline, that usually kind of calms back down again. Most people have filed by then, but we do get some very busy weeks in there, but that's fun. And it's also when everybody's had a lot of practice, so everybody's much more efficient and kind of in the groove. All right. Any questions about any of those? All right. That is the end of training. All right. One more time. Feeling ready? Any other questions?
Yeah, if we have any questions about the tax layer, can we email you to set up like a Zoom meeting for that?
If you have questions about how to make tax layer work, I
Not right
think
now, but when, for example, if I'm filling out like a case and tax layer, can I just email you to set up a meeting or not?
100% email me and we'll see about whether it needs to be a meeting or if we just do it over email. But yes, we can help. I'll help with if there's any issues in tax layer. I would say that by the time you're through with the volunteer readiness check, you will have done almost everything that you're going to need to do in tax layer, at least once. All right. Okay. What is the readiness check again? The volunteer readiness check is a quiz and 2 scenarios that you have to prepare correctly. That is what the volunteer readiness check is. So sort of like a final practical exam, I would say. Not really. The quiz is, I guess, a little bit of a test, but then also a demonstration. Yes, I know how to prepare returns. I've done it. All right. Okay, well, with that, I am going to stop the recording. The University of Minnesota Student Group NRVTAP has a recruiting presentation for their leadership team. And so they're going to go through that. If you are not part of the U of M system, you are welcome to hang up at this time. And I will see you over Moodle and Zoom or in person. For everyone else, just hang on here for a couple of minutes and we'll go. And thank you.